Hey, this is my recap of Ink Master Season 4, Episode 10, Karma's a Bitch. We're down to 5 artists. That's Melissa, Halo, Scott, Maddie, and Sausage. So, of course, they're doing the kind of post-elimination chitter-chatter. Scott saying how Sausage and Melissa have to go. Now, Halo and Sausage are saying, dude, you can't count anyone out. Like, anyone can make it to the final 3. And Scott's like, that's not how it's going to be. And he really seems to think that, like, he has control of the competition, which he might be right. Anyway, they go on a boat, and if you look real carefully, you'll see Sausage lean up against the railing and do this, which is totally like a Titanic reference, which cracked me up. It was real subtle, but it was there. And they'll look at the Statue of Liberty. They're going to do an exact life study to a T, no interpretation, none of that. So the winner gets to assign canvases. They all do their sketches. Halo gets a little seasick. But in the end, surprise, it's not just a sketch, it's also a tattoo. They go in, they have 3 hours to do a tattoo. In the end, Halo wins. Scott's trying to convince Halo, you really need to be gunning for Melissa. And Halo's like, no, I'm just going to be doing it the way I need to be doing it. Don't you even worry about it. So the theme is proportion, and they have to do a traditional Japanese snake. Now, I already know this is going to be really difficult because Japanese, every single episode, or every single season, we do Japanese. Every single season, people get nailed for not knowing Japanese. It's like math. You can't be close enough. You can't be kind of near. Like, 2 plus 2 is 4. There's no room for, like, 2.7 or 4.3. Like, you got to do it a certain way. And people who judge Japanese are always, if you screw it up, it's like even 3 times as insulting because you're disrespecting a whole culture and you can't really defend your work. So this is going to be a tricky challenge. I mean, I just knew it going in. It's going to be very, very difficult. So Scott gets, of course, the hardest one. They're all ribs, by the way. But at least at this point, he has a good attitude about it. You know, he didn't whine and complain and say how it was unfair. He said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Now, he does have some problem with his canvas, and I didn't think his canvas was that out of line. I mean, she wasn't a jerk. I mean, she was definitely making it difficult for him, but she wasn't like some of the previous canvases that have just been like, well, I'm just going to walk right now, or you do it my way or I leave or something. It seems pretty reasonable that she should at least like what's on her. So, they all do their tattoos. Afterwards, he gives a real backhanded compliment, Scott does, to Melissa about, you might have actually done better than Halo today. Which is like kind of insulting all around. Like, wow, that's so shocking you actually did okay. So it slammed both Melissa and Halo. Anyway, they go into the judging and they just flat out say, it's going to be tough for everyone. You all kind of suck. So Melissa, they appreciate that hers is Japanese. Some of her her original drawing wasn't what they'd like, the way the lines matched up or where things terminated. They had a real problem with it. They called it a real stiff drawing. Maddie also had some design flaws, but it seemed to be relatively good overall. Sausage, they didn't like they liked the background, but they didn't like the way there was a skull and a cobra. They felt that the skull was too small, which to me, they seemed to all really reiterate it. I didn't quite get it, but they seemed pretty convinced. Halo, the bottom of the tattoo was bad. They felt that for the Japanese style, it was done really incorrectly because it would be impossible to connect it to a full back piece, which is pretty common in that style. And then Scott's was super hard to read. It wasn't Japanese. It was actually a bit new school. Just, they didn't like it at all. So Maddie wins. Maddie's really bugging me because he's, he keeps saying that he thinks Sausage is better, but he's like just right there on top of Scott. He's like, well, of course I'm not going to send you, man. And they decide, they wanted to send Sausage, but they decided to put Halo because Halo wins the quick challenges, and which means he gets skull picks, whereas Sausage doesn't. So like, hey, if we can get rid of Halo, then we can win all of the skull picks, or Scott can win all the skull picks, let's be honest. And then that'll make the rest of our journey easier. So Maddie puts Halo on the bottom. The human canvases put Scott on the bottom, and the judges pull down Melissa. In the end, it comes down to between Melissa and Scott, more or less. And the judges say that Melissa's was more Japanese and Scott's was worse. And I figured they were going to send Melissa home because that's who the judges picked to be in the bottom anyway. But what really bothered me is that when they said Melissa, they said yours wasn't the worst. But Scott has a stronger body of work, or Scott, you don't have a win by your name, so we're sending you home. Which for me kind of undermines the whole competition, because usually these competitions are done so it's challenge by challenge, so you have to not be in the bottom every single challenge. And as viewers, we know that sometimes your past work comes into it, but for them just to flat out say your design wasn't the worst, but we're going to send you home anyway, for me kind of makes me like, oh, so what you're saying is that there's no way Scott can go home because he's had so many wins. Like, I don't even really need to worry because I now know that you're going to be grading kind of an overall. So that's kind of disappointing. Plus, I felt that Scott's was really bad, and they really shouldn't have given him a pass. But, maybe it'll be one of those things where he does bad again and then he'll go home. I just find him almost intolerable to watch. I almost can't finish the show when he's on the screen. So we are getting down to the end. We're now down to 4 artists. So I'll see you guys soon.